I'm a migrant woman. I'm a migrant woman by choice. I had the choice to stay in my country. I chose to leave, but I could always go back. And yet, it's not easy. It's not easy to settle in a new country. It's not easy to make new friends and feel accepted. It's a journey which is really difficult. So if I think about a woman who, on the other hand, has not chosen to leave, has had maybe one day or 1 week to pack up and leave everyone behind, who cannot go back even if she would like to, who might never be able to see her family again, and arrives in a country where, in the best of days, they make her feel unwelcome. You know, they might give her some social security and some benefits, but generally, she's made to feel that it'd be better if you didn't come here. Um, I am incredibly passionate.
Born and raised in the motherland, chasing a better life. Story of an immigrant.
Concrete pastures.
Concrete pastures.
Hello, family. Welcome back to Concrete Pastures. I am Nancy Mulemwasisi. Oh, I'm so excited. Thank you for tuning in. And to anybody who is new here and you're not subscribed, we are growing our community. Before you watch this video, do us a favor, support us by clicking the subscribe button. This way we can reach many more people like you. Thank you. For anybody who's new, this is your home. This is a home of your fellow immigrants and dreamers. We talk about everything. We talk about our stories. We inspire each other through our stories. And we talk about how the world is being changed around because of our stories. Okay, so on today's episode, before I get into it, I just want to say a huge thank you to our sponsor, BetterHelp. And wow, I'm so excited to introduce our next guest. She is an amazing woman. I listened to her. I found her via LinkedIn, and I'm so grateful she is able to lend us her time and to be here to inspire us. She's done so much around the world, and we are about to find out. So please stay tuned. Again, don't forget to subscribe. This is your home, our channel, and we're here to be able to inspire you. Her name is Camilla Schippa, and she is the CEO of one of Australia's most creative and celebrated social enterprises, the Social Outfit. The Social Outfit is the fashion label with a difference created to provide employment and training in the fashion industry to people from refugee and new migrant communities. Camilla not only leads the Social Outfit operations, she also supports her employees by mentoring and guiding them to better integrate in Australia. Prior to leading the Social Outfit, she started her career at the United Nations, where in 2008, she was the chief of the UN Office for Partnerships within the Executive Office of the UN Secretary General. In the role, she advised on the management of the US 1 billion partnership between the UN and TED.
Thank you so much for having me and for finding me and reaching out. And I'm humbled by that introduction.
I am so nervous. I was so nervous. How are you?
I'm very well. I'm very well. It's a sunny day here in Australia. Let me apologize just at the start. I'm in a very busy workplace. So hopefully there's going to be no interruption of people. But in case there are, and you see people in the background, don't worry about it. I'm at work and it's, the middle of the day here.
I know. It's Friday, it's Thursday here, 9 p.m. I'm grateful for my kids for giving me this time to inspire our audience together.
I look forward to our chat.
Yes. So you are no stranger to a life of an immigrant. You were born in Italy. Could you just walk us all around on how life was a little bit in Italy and how you came to be an immigrant around the world.
Yes, sure. Well, I was born and raised in Italy, but I am myself the daughter of an immigrant. So my mother had come from Sweden and settled in Italy and married an Italian. So growing up in Italy, I actually had a very strong bond with Sweden and spent time in Sweden with my grandparents. And I think that when you are raised with two languages and two cultures, then your desire and your curiosity for anything else is increased. So I always knew that my life was not going to be in Italy. I always knew that I wanted to explore new places and new countries. And then as soon as I graduated from university, I just left, and I never went back.
Wow. So when you left Italy, what was your first place?
My first place was actually Kenya. I spent a year doing anthropological and ethnological research in Kenya, observing the impact of tourism on the traditional cultures of the Maasais. And from doing that incredibly fascinating work, living in a country where you feel the sun, you know, when the sun comes up and when it goes down, because when it goes down, you go to sleep because normally there's no other light. I moved to Norway to continue the research into Africa, but in a completely different environment. And I remember thinking, how can people live with so little sun up here? But my dream had always been to work at the United Nations. And so I started applying very early on in my career. And so finally, after 1 year in Norway, I was accepted and I made the big move to New York, where again, I was like, oh, and now I'm in a place where you don't even see the sun or the moon because there's buildings all around you. And so by the time I was in my, I think 26 years old, I was working at the United Nations in New York.
Wow. How was your experience at the United Nations? Because I know you made a lot of a lot of changes, a lot of impact over there.
Look, it was a time when the United Nations was changing because it was having a wonderful leadership of the then Secretary General Kofi Annan, who had a very different vision for the organization and wanted to open it up to not only working with governments, but also with private sector. And I worked mostly on how do you engage the private sector and the private wealth into trying to improve the world. I loved my time at the United Nations. And I must say, when I think back, the things that I loved most was the fact that on a daily basis, I was interacting with people from all different backgrounds and cultures. So it brings me back to that original desire of exploring and learning and being just inspired by people that come from different backgrounds. Although one thing that did bother me to some extent at the UN is that while it's so very international, it's all people who have had certain opportunities and therefore come from certain backgrounds to be able to have the level of degrees and studies and connections and networks to be able to land at the United Nations. Yeah. So it's not truly democratic as it should be, which is very, very hard to achieve, obviously. But that was something I was missing. In other words, you just feel like you're together with a group of people from all over the world, but who are all fairly privileged.
Got it. I saw a YouTube video of you doing my research of you, and you were talking about peace, and it's relevant to what we're going to be talking about. Why is peace important for us?
Oh, because peace underpins everything. We're not going to have a future unless we learn to live in peace and reap the benefits of not having to deal with the consequences of violence. And what I realized when I was at the United Nations was how much everybody who talks about peace actually is talking about violence. So we were all talking about how do you stop a conflict? How do you rebuild after a conflict? What are the actions you take? So I met this philanthropist while I was working at the UN who had this idea of saying, can't we turn this around? Instead of studying violence and what leads to violence, why don't we study peace and what builds peace? And it's similar to what happened in the medical science, right? We should always study disease and how to cure it. But when we started looking at a healthy body and how to sustain a healthy body, we make great advances in the medical science. Can we do the same for peace? Which is why I moved here to Australia to head this new organization called the Institute for Economics and Peace that was really dedicated, and it exists to this day, and they have an office in New York as well. It's dedicated to the study of peace, to really help countries learn what it takes to remain peaceful, rather than having to fall into conflict and then help countries rebuild after the conflict. So how can we prevent it somehow? And the argument behind the importance of peace was that it facilitates everything else. Number one, our own lives and happiness, but there are a lot of economic benefits that come by not having to spend money on violence and on the consequences of that violence. As we know, as you probably can see every day in the United States, violence is costly. Peace is beneficial also from an economic point of view. Now, that shouldn't be the leverage. We should care about peace just because it's just a better way to live.
Mm-hmm.
But it's an additional argument to bring the economic perspective into it.
So, already, I'm from Zambia, and a lot of the countries that are our neighbors are in civil war. Let's say Congo, for instance, and there have been civil war since 1996. Peace has an attachment to money.
Yes.
In your own opinion, and through your studies, how can we avoid that, even going forward? Like it's
yes. And I think, our research was showing that it is about investing in the underpinning structures of peace that will help change that. Because yes, of course, there are people who benefit from violence, and there's money associated in that war and that violence. But the generality of the community does not benefit from it. In fact, we can see that some of the countries that have been victims of violence are actually the ones with the lowest GDP. There is no economic growth because they're embroiled in the conflict. But how do we convince the other countries, the countries that have the finances and the resources, the countries that come to the United Nations, to say, we need to invest in these elements to build peace? And one of the key elements that I care so much about is social cohesion. And our research shows that it doesn't actually matter how violent or peaceful a country is today. I can be living in Sydney, which is a very, very peaceful town in a very peaceful country. But if we don't build that social resilience within the society, if there will be an economic shock, say a recession, or an environmental shock, say a massive earthquake, the country will be not resilient to that. So I think that's the key. It's like we never know when there's going to be an event that might generate violence. How do we build the structures within that society to be able to respond peacefully? Why is it that when there was an enormous economic downturn in Iceland or an enormous earthquake in Japan, the countries were able to deal with it peacefully? Because they had those structures set in place.
How do we build those structures? Because that seems to be the key to having. Right. How do we start to build those structures? Like it starts with us as the communities that we are building. So how do we actually build those structures?
It takes time and it takes effort, and it's exactly what I've chosen to do. So I decided to leave the Institute for Economics and Peace and leave the research with my colleagues, because I really wanted to put in practice to some extent what I was preaching. And if I believe in social cohesion and building this resilience, what I'm doing at the social outfit, in a small scale, obviously, but many small scales add up to a big scale, is to bring women in disadvantage from many different backgrounds together with the Sydney-siders, so we can start breaking those barriers and building those networks so that we get to know each other and care about each other and support each other and start building that net that is going to keep us together in the face of anything. So on my daily work, I make sure that the women that are engaged in the social outfit all come from as many different countries and cultures as possible, so that they share meals and they share a language and they share their work and they're empowered to work. And that will trickle down, because we work with women, to the families, to the children, to the husbands, to the societies. And that is one of many steps that we need to take that, in my mind, really will help build a more peaceful society here in Sydney.
What was the core reason for you to build this organization to help the women?
I'm a migrant woman. I'm a migrant woman by choice. I had the choice to stay in my country. I chose to leave, but I could always go back. And yet, it's not easy. It's not easy to settle in a new country. It's not easy to make new friends and feel accepted. It's a journey which is really difficult. So if I think about a woman who, on the other hand, has not chosen to leave, has had maybe 1 day or 1 week to pack up and leave everyone behind, who cannot go back even if she would like to, who might never be able to see her family again, and arrives in a country where, in the best of days, they make her feel unwelcome. They might give her some social security and some benefits, but generally she's made to feel that it'd be better if you didn't come here. I am incredibly passionate to help those women, even with just providing one little glimpse of hope, one smile, one sense of saying, no, you're welcome, we want you here, and we'll accompany you a little bit along the journey. You have done so much. You have faced so many barriers. You have been said no so many times. I want to be the place where we can say yes. Yes, you're welcome, you're capable, we'll teach you and you'll teach us. And that, as a migrant woman, gives me more satisfaction than any handshake with presidents I would have had at the United Nations.
Beautiful. When the women arrive, they come directly to you, or you go to the refugee camps and get them, or how do they find you?
Yes, so in Australia, there's no refugee camps, but there are different ways in which refugees have arrived. Some are deemed illegal, some are put into detention, some come through the UNHCR list. No, there's many different ways, and there are agencies here whose work is support those refugees. Now, those agencies know of our work very well, so whenever they come across a woman that they think would be fit and right for the kind of things that we offer, they reach out to us. There is also another thing, that we have become so well known within the refugee community in Sydney that there's a lot of refugees who refer other refugees. So there's a lot of word of mouth and women who kind of find us in different ways.
So I'm a refugee woman. What type of work do you provide for us?
So first of all, why women and not men? Women, because in Australia, it is estimated that only about 20% of refugee and new migrant women are engaged in the workforce. Humanitarian, so they just don't get jobs for a variety of reasons. It's not very flexible, they might not speak the language, they have young kids, the husbands are working, so they feel they need to stay at home, many different reasons. But ultimately, we know that giving a woman a job is transformational to her, to her family, to her community. And also, you're not going to start integrating in a country unless you come to work. You're not going to start feeling this is home. You're not going to inspire your daughters unless you are working. So we decided to offer work to refugee women in fashion, because lots of refugee women who come to Australia come from countries where they know how to sew. They've had experience in sewing. They had their own sewing machines. So it's something that they can transition into. Also because it's a creative, happy space where we make things with beautiful fabrics and beautiful colors. And in addition, your English doesn't need to be great. You can talk with your hands. You can talk with your work. You can look at patterns. We can, so it was deemed like it was a first good step. So what kind of roles do we offer? Normally, and the way we started is that we offer women sewing jobs. Depending on where they are, often they need training. We offer free sewing classes at different levels so they can improve. We have a lot of women, for example, coming from Afghanistan. They know how to sew, but they have never used an electric machine, let alone an industrial machine. It's kind of going from, a horse and cart to driving a Ferrari. So you do need some time to adjust to be able to learn the Ferrari and not crash. Once we deem that they are good enough, they are offered employment, normally on a fixed term, so they know they have certainty and security in their employment, and they come to work. We offer flexible working hours because we know they have kids to drop at school and maybe pick up, and it's not always easy. They come to our workroom, which is a very multicultural environment, where the women make the clothes. But we also have a shop, and we offer paid traineeship to young refugee women in our shop. What does that mean? It means that every day the shop is open, we have one young refugee coming in for a shift, and they normally come for 3 months. They're paid for their time. It's their first work experience, normally, definitely the first work experience in Australia. We teach them everything they need to know about how do you talk to customers? How do you process a sale? How do you pack an online order? And then we help them transition to the next job. Because all of these women are incredibly capable. I mean, they've overcome obstacles that I can't even dream of having to overcome, right? They just need that first little help, that first experience on their CV, that building all their confidence, feeling that even if they don't speak the language, they can do it, feeling that they can improve on the language bit by bit. So that's what we do. We, in the training program in the shop, the retail training program that we call it now, we have trained over 30 young women so far, and 89% of them have gone on to other ongoing employment after they've trained with us. And these are women that often would have had applied for jobs for years, but not being able to secure any employment. So it works. Just got to give them a little bit of help, and then they go and they flourish.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. And once they are settled, do they come back also to help others? Like once
Yes,
they're...
I mean, as I always say, everybody's different. We're dealing with individuals, right? Refugees are not a category. Refugees are just a lot of different people with lots of different backgrounds and stories and lives and aspirations. So everyone is different. Some women stay with us for a long time and progress. So our head sewing teacher, for example, has now been with us for 6 years. She came as a student. She's improved so much. She wants to stay, and she's built up. Our head cutter is the same. She lived in a refugee camp for over 20 years. So she wasn't used to the many things that we're, you can picture a refugee camp, right? I mean, since she's been here, the main thing I have to do with her is to tell her, please don't come at 6 a.m. in the morning. We're not open. You know, she's used to working such long hours and being up. And I have to kind of convince her, please you have paid holidays. You need to stay home. And she still wants to come even when she's on holidays, because she's like, what's holidays? I don't know what to do. I want to come. So some women will always remain in the community, because what we offer is really a community, a family, a sense of belonging. And some would stay for 6 months, but then find their feet and decide that they want to work in another area closer to home, perhaps, or in a completely different field. And life takes them in different directions. We're just that first stop for many. So it's a very, very big family that is growing, and women are free to be engaging with us as much as they feel they need.
Being an immigrant can be hard. Having been away from my home country for over 20 years has allowed me to experience these hardships firsthand. Throughout my journey, I've had a lot of challenges that were hard to bear. Juggling adjustment to a new country, obtaining my immigration papers, getting married, having children, establishing my career, and finding time for myself. Even though I've always had faith, I also relied on therapy, which gave me the tools to cope with the issues life brought me. My fellow dreamers, let's remove the stigma around therapy and normalize seeking help with today's sponsor, BetterHelp. BetterHelp offers licensed therapists who are trained to listen and help you. Go to betterhelp.com/concrete pastures for 10% off your first month of therapy with BetterHelp, and get matched with a therapist who will listen and help in as little as 48 hours. Wow. No, but I can imagine me being an immigrant, the first person that helps you is the person that you get attached to for a very long time. And that's why I ask if they do come back or they stay with you even longer and stuff like that. How is the retail business though? Because I know this is a gift that keeps on giving, but how is the retail business now?
The retail business is good, but it's always tough. You know, fashion is really a difficult sector, and you have
Yes.
to be fashionable. And we don't really have a fashion designer. We design everything in house with the women, and that's the creative part of it. And we have some very loyal and supportive customers, but you know, we've been trying to grow online, but we don't have the budgets that big brands have. So you know, while we're probably the only really ethical and sustainable fashion brand out there, if you Google ethical fashion brands, we definitely, you know, won't come up, because there's people who pay much more for the algorithm to have them come on
Yeah.
top.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough, you know. I wish we could sell more, but you know, we have consistently been increasing our sales, so we are on a good trajectory. And because we're a charity, we don't need to just rely on the sales of the clothes. So the sales of the clothes cover, you know, a very substantial part of our budget, and then we have grants that we applied for and some government support, etc., to be able to do all the charitable work that we do that doesn't necessarily generate any revenue. But it's a beautiful and colorful shop that we have. The other component that, you know, doesn't relate to migration and refugee, but I think it's important to mention, is that because we also care about the environment, as everybody should. We do not use any virgin fabrics. In other words, we don't get anything added to the world that doesn't already exist to make our fashion. The 80% of what we use is actually excess. Fabric and trims and buttons and zippers, you name it, that the fashion industry discards before even ever having used it. So it's completely new, but it has been purchased by someone else and they don't want it anymore because it's not the right color, because they've changed their mind, because they don't think it's going to be fashionable. So we accept all of those donations from local, obviously it has to be local brands, because we don't want to have to ship things across the oceans. And they just call us up, and then we go out with a van that we rent and pick up all their their waste, essentially. We solve a problem for them because it makes them more sustainable, those Australian fashion brands, and it gives us beautiful fabrics to work with at no cost.
I heard that on one of your talks, and I was very impressed.
Yeah.
And it's one of the reasons why I reached out to you, aside from the you helping out the refugees, women, and the fashion industry that you are working in. And I was very impressed. It's unheard of. I'm sure it's happening around the world, but this was my first time actually for someone taking in whatever is being thrown and recycling that in a way to impact other people's lives. So that was, it's
Yeah, I
impressive.
mean, I feel it's a win-win. It's very
It is.
difficult times because we might get a beautiful fabric and decide to make a particular pattern and shape, and then we photograph it, we put it up on our website, it's available for sale, people love it, and after we sell 10 tops or 10 pants, well, the fabric's finished. So it is really, really hard to make a business model on it, to make money, in other words. But we also feel that, well, if we don't use those 10 meters of fabric, nobody will. And they will just end up in landfill. And it's our responsibility to actually use it, which is what our customers understand. And sometimes, maybe the photograph of the item has a particular elastic, but by the time we make it for that customer, that the elastic is finished, we're using another one. So our customers understand what we stand for and want to support us, and they are really great in that way.
That's amazing. Do you have any section for the kids, or it's just the parents, the women, and it goes over to the kids, or it's just
in terms of the clothes that we make?
Yeah, the clothes and also the program that you offer. Do you
Right.
have anything for the children?
So at the moment, in terms of clothes, it's mostly women's fashion, and we have started to make some unisex that work for both men and women, shirts and things like that. We haven't ventured into kids fashion because we're just worried that the costs and be hard to compete. There is such a big offer out there. In terms of the programs, most programs are, again, just for women. If women have young children, then in order for them to participate in the programs, we often have set up and offer some child minding services, so they can come for the free training while somebody's looking after their young child. But we have another project which is very interesting. So sometimes we are donated, say, a black cotton or a very plain fabric. We do want to use it, but we want to spark it up. So we go out and we work with schools. The next program is going to be in a primary school, with schools where a lot of refugees are. So they have those, what's called here an intensive English center, where the refugees are taught, on one side they have to learn the curriculum, on the other they have to quickly learn the English to be able to keep up with the curricula. So we develop those partnerships and we do art with the students over a couple of months, and then engage with a pattern making artist, a designer and a textile artist, who then collages this artwork and creates beautiful prints that then get either digitally or screen printed onto the fabric, as a way to, number one, give us beautiful fabric. So that black fabric suddenly has, a print on it. Two, there's a story. Three, the young refugees that have done art feel empowered and happy to see that their drawings and their art is now in our shop on beautiful textiles and then worn by lawyers and businesswomen, whoever comes and shops, and then allows us to celebrate the skills and the creativity of the refugees. So that program often involves children or teenagers.
What has been your favorite part of doing this for the women?
Or just getting to know the women, getting to know them one by one. I know some better than others because of who they are and because of who I am. And we all have a tendency, we're all humans, right?
Yeah.
Um, but just getting to know them and being able to be part of their journey a little bit, it's difficult work at times because some of those stories are very heartbreaking and confronting. Sometimes I get so angry just hearing the stories and hearing what these women have been through. It seems incredibly unfair. But it's all balanced out by the fact of seeing their resilience and the smile on their faces and their ability to still get up every day and be hopeful, and how much they can teach us about, not to take anything for granted and having this strength of going on day by day, whether, your kids have been taken away from you or whatever. The stories are multiple, and some are more brutal than others, but the women are here. They're here and they are still going on, every day and doing their best. And it's so inspirational for me to see and to just be part of that journey.
Lovely. You have been around the world. You have seen a lot. And right now, what are you working on that we can support you on for your important work that you are doing?
Oh, thank you. Well, yes, I've seen a lot. But I must say, during all my years of work before, I've seen a lot of planes and I've seen a lot of men in grey suits. I'm very happy now to be mostly working with real women and trying to make the real change happen on the ground. Not that the other work isn't important, but I think it's just great to be able to have done a bit of both. We are about to launch our annual challenge, which is both a fundraising event as well as an awareness campaign. And I would love to get some visibility and some attention to it. It's called Wear the Change.
Ooh,
and we're calling on women around the world to agree to take this challenge during Refugee Week. Refugee Week is the 3rd week of June. And we're asking women to take the challenge by agreeing for those 5 working days of June to wear one item, one top, one ethical garment, all 5 days, and style it in 5 different ways to fundraise for us. Why? Because women are always pressured about having to wear something different and something new every day. But the amount of fashion waste in the world is, completely sickening. There is, I think every Australian woman is estimated to throw away 23 kilos, which is about 50 pounds of clothes every year. It's just unsustainable. So we want to encourage women to feel comfortable and happy. You buy something which is ethical and it's well made, and hopefully something that we have made at the Social Outfit, and wear it for 5 days. Spend a little bit more. Love it. Wear it in 5 different ways. Tell your other friend and your colleagues at work that it's okay to outfit, repeat, and ask them while you do that to give $5, $10, $15 to the campaign. It's a peer-to-peer fundraising campaign, and the money will support us in continuing to provide the services and the work that we do, but will also celebrate refugee women and start changing the attitude towards clothes, which is something we desperately need to do.
I love this challenge. As you were talking,
you're in.
As you were talking, I'm thinking, I'm like, should I wear the African wrap? Should I wear the? I'm already planning.
Fantastic. And so many women participate, and then tag us on Instagram and they put up all their outfits for the week. And it's such a celebration also. I mean, it's fun, right? Because it's fun
It's
to
fun. It's
think
fun.
about clothes and getting dressed up, but we have to limit how much we buy. So why don't we use our creativity to use a certain item in many different ways? And then, go out to the people that we know and say, look, I'm doing this challenge. It's to support refugees. Would you mind donating, X amount, whatever, to my page? And it's, the first year we did it, was when COVID hit, and we were very nervous because we thought nobody's going to work, nobody's going to the office,
Yes.
going to do this challenge. But actually, it took off because people were at home and were bored. And so we had all these fantastic photos on Instagram of women sitting at home, putting on these outfits. And so this is going to be the third year we're going to do it. And we really hope that we will spread outside Australia and get involvement from women all over the world.
I'm definitely going to participate. I'm already planning. I think
Fantastic.
it's
I can't wait to see your outfits.
amazing. No, it's an amazing initiative, and I mean it's helping refugee women. Why not? It's a
It's
great
all
cause.
outlined already on our website. So our website, which is thissocialoutfit.org, can't remember now, but there is a tab on where the change and all the information is provided there.
Got it. So I'll have everything in the show notes. So everybody can participate, or the concrete pastures, community, we can support you. I love it. It's a great initiative.
Thank you.
Because the thing is, I interviewed someone from Congo, and it's our last episode for season 2, and this just goes on together with it.
Fantastic.
Yes, it goes on together with it. I'm already wrapping my head around. I'm like, okay, what are we gonna do? How are we gonna dress? How are we gonna look? I love it. I love fashion. Do you feel fulfilled from all the work that you've been able to accomplish, to do for others?
I do. I feel very privileged to have been able, number one, to change my career. When I was 50, I made a conscious decision of saying, I need a change, and I want to be in touch with women, and I want to work to support women and to really build that peace in a grounds, at the ground level. So I feel that I'm very privileged to have been able to do that, because I'm aware that many women and many people in general don't have that ability to be able to choose. So I'm grateful for that. But mostly I feel very grateful that I found something that fulfills me so much. I've learned a lot along the way, which has been a great experience. But now, as I was saying, I'm a mother as well, but I feel like I'm also a mother at work, and to be able to work with all these women and learn from them and be part of their journey makes me feel that I'm contributing something real, and as small as that can be, just even changing one person's life is just incredibly rewarding. That doesn't mean that I don't want to do more. I have dreams of being able not to do it myself, but of being able to inspire others to set up organizations similar to the Social Outfit in other countries. Coming back to home, if I think about Italy and the number of refugees that arrive, but also the opportunity for manufacturing fashion in a country like Italy, and the amount of fashion waste that there would be. It's on a scale, it's so much greater than Australia. So, I would love to be able to inspire and help someone to set up a social outfit outside Milano or outside Paris or London, so that I just want to prove that the model works here, and then just set the seeds for more. That's my dream.
I see that happening. We have some pockets of listeners in France and pockets of listeners in Italy. Please reach out. I think it's a great initiative, and I can imagine the fashion, home of France and Italy. It's great. All the ways that they have, that would be so beneficial to your initiative. I love it.
Yeah, I would hope that, you just can't plant some seeds and then things might happen. It takes a lot of work. It's not, it's not easy. It's every day is very, very busy, and there are many different challenges. But there are challenges for everyone everywhere. So this at least helps make things a little bit better.
Thank you for what you're doing for others. I can't imagine it's easy. Like anything in life, everything has challenges. And for you waking up every single day and showing up for these women, I applaud you. And it's truly the main reason when I heard your story talking about it, about you helping refugee women, I was like, I need to sit down with her. And because it's something that I'm passionate about as well, helping women. And if somebody is coming from a country where they've been tortured, they've been in so much pain all their lives, and then you're giving them that light, that there is hope for tomorrow. It's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm very lucky to be able to do this, and yeah.
Yeah. Last question. Have you found your concrete pastures?
I think so. I think Social Outfit is my concrete pasture.
Oh, I think so too. Uh, this has been an amazing conversation. I appreciate you for giving us your time and for honoring us with a little bit of your story and for honoring us with your initiative and what you're doing for others. And yes, thank you so much.
Oh, no, pleasure is all mine, and thank you for featuring us and wanting to hear the story. And it means a lot to be able to reach other people with what we're doing, and hopefully get some support in whatever way that might be, or just even inspire others to do similar work.
Yes, no, thank you. And it's afternoon. How can we follow you on social media uh, or websites, whatever social media tags that you have? How can we follow you?
Yes, thank you for that question. So we are on Instagram and on Facebook, and it's in both places. It's just at The Social Outfit, and our website is thesocialoutfit.org, because we are an organization. We are a registered charity in Australia. We provide tax deductibility and all of that, but obviously to Australian residents, we report to the government. So it's all, we are a proper charitable organization.
Lovely. I'll have everything again in the show notes so we can all follow and subscribe, tag, and go to the websites as well and support. So
thank you so much, and feel free to comment on our Instagram. Let us know what you think of the clothes. Yes, we look forward to some feedback.
Thank you so much. Have a great day. I'm gonna go to sleep now. Thank you. Enjoy your day.